proposition. We have industrially processed synthetic foods, ultra-processed foods, if you want to think of it that way, that are very calorie dense, that taste amazing if all you've ever had to eat your entire life was pinyon pine nuts. So, once they get the sense of this, once predators realize that prey species are much more abundant, like rodent species are much more abundant around human sites, well then that means it's going to be much more abundant in the predator species as well. Okay, so yeah, we've all been ghosted before. It gets you right in the feels, right? But you probably have seen other pictures of bears at picnic tables, which is not a normal spot for them, except that it's so common we've got a bunch of pictures of it, right? So yeah, this is the thing. For moose, the food attraction isn't to a campsite typically. It is to salt at the side of the road leading to the campsite, and the engine block takes out the legs, and the body mass takes out the driver, the person in the shotgun seat, and half the time somebody in the back seat as well. There's not much to send home to the funeral after something like that, okay? So, food attraction behavior can be like, this is a joke, but it can be like being pursued by wildlife. Has anybody here ever been followed by wildlife in sort of a creeptastic, food attracted way? I was at Shenandoah National Park hiking one time, and there was a single deer walking about 30 feet behind me for miles and miles. And that is not a good feeling, right? Because that deer should not be doing that. But so many visitors had fed that specific individual organism that it had that behavior reinforced to the point that it was a good idea to follow me for miles that day. Okay? All right, this one's pretty quick. Sea lions. Friends don't let friends sea lion, right? So, this is, what should I say? This is a video on summer camp. Like this isn't really normal, right? The prey species shouldn't be particularly okay with getting pets from a global super predator. But this particular individual organism was actually raised as a pet because that's how rural Georgians do, okay? This is a fox at Denali National Park running toward us. Because if you're a fox and you can panhandle, as it's called, so put a paw out and look cute with those big dilated puppy eyes and hang around and maybe yip a little bit until the visitor takes pity on you and throws a snack bar at you, you're done feeding for the day, right? 5 minutes of work, 24 hours of nutrition, pretty good deal, okay? Here's how that turned out. It just ran toward us and then was hanging out of arm's reach, but close enough to see if we set anything down or tossed anything toward it. And it waited there for a good little while, okay? You've ever had a full-size sandwich pulled out of your hand by a seagull? That's a very common experience in touristy areas as well. That's a food attraction behavior. Okay. So the issue here for humans are the zoonoses, the zoonotic diseases that can jump from the wildlife or parasites that the wildlife is hosting. And we're thinking about the bird, and we're getting sick videos, and we're not thinking about the fleas on the mammal. Typically it's mammals, this is a bird, but right, this is a thing. Haha, right, just making sure everybody's paying attention. Okay, how about this one? She was gonna get a cool video for Instagram, posted on her story of like, let's see if we can get the seagull to pluck this French fry out of my hand. And then she gets mobbed by a bunch of gulls going, mine, mine, mine. If you saw. All right, so this is called panhandling, or in some smaller communities like backpacking, this is called yogiing, a reference to Yogi the bear, who was always stealing visitors' picnic baskets back in like the 1960s and 70s in the cartoons. Okay, this is the source of a lot of charismatic wildlife interactions, but that is not an herbivore, right? Like, she's in danger. Trash pandas at the beach, trash pandas at the stream. This is horrifying. Like, man. At first I'm thinking rabies, then I'm thinking food attraction, then I'm thinking, this is like, man, what the heck, Lemony Snickets? What series of unfortunate events led us to this, right? Like, that is a very aggressive food-attracted raccoon. Okay. And fish schooling to be fed, right? Makes for easy fishing, but changes the experience for the next everybody, whoever comes there ever again. Okay. Food attraction, food attraction, food attraction, food attraction. Chronic wasting disease in the human too. Oh yeah, oh yeah, get the tongue in there, right? You know, just bad choices all around, bad life choices, okay? Learn from their fail. This next one is a video that I recorded at Rocky Mountain National Park. It's a little bit hard to see, so I'll kind of narrate this one. But this lady is reading a sign. Oh, is the video busted? Oh no. Yeah, okay. This is a sign that says, these are the wildlife that are here. Do not feed these wildlife. You can see at the bottom edge of the sign, there's a big red strip that says, do not feed wildlife. You can get bubonic plague, black plague. It's a bacterial infection. And then a little striped chipmunk runs out, and behind her, she spots it, and she's like chasing it and trying to throw food at it. And like, I couldn't have choreographed a worse video than that. Like, she's reading the sign that says, do not feed the wildlife. And then she's chasing it down to feed it. So this is a thing, it's never not gonna be a thing with humans. And there's been a lot of research in the past 20, 25 years of, okay, what do you do with this? So we'll get into that in a later class session. How do you communicate with people? Do you fence them back from the wildlife? Do you give them an educational talk? Do you threaten them with fines? Like, we have tried everything to see what works. And stuff like this can just be sheer ignorance, right? So, okay, bison have not super duper binocular vision, right? They don't have two eyes mounted forward like you and I do to triangulate distance to prey through parallax vision. They are a prey species, effectively. So they have a wider field of view and less confocal or binocular vision. This bison, do you see how it can't see its own mouth? It can't see where this guy is. It's all fun and games until you get your face torn off, right? Like, this is corvids, ravens, crows, jays. They are very smart and have given us a pretty bad time on summer camp a couple of different times because they are constantly on the rove for more options. This is at Yosemite National Park. This isn't even at a campsite. This is at a very popular rest stop along a trail. It's a very steep section up to here, and then you get a great view right there. And so people stop. Everybody has the same great idea to catch their breath, wipe off their sweat, pull out their bag of trail mix, eat some, spill some, keep on hiking, and then, like Sir Mix-a-Lot, we have loved the trail mix and left the trail mix, and the Stellar's Jays pull in quick to retrieve them. All those crumbs, okay? It's like throwing feed out there to livestock, right? Same idea. And we get the human motivation for this. Like, this is a pretty cool video. There is nothing healthy for this bird in this video. Yeah, it's a fish, but like, this is training this bird, hey, fly at boats and see what happens. You might get a juicy reward. Can you see how that would totally backfire and lead to the eventual impact to that entire population of that species in that area? Right? This is super pixelated, but this is a whole bunch of deer in a park in, I believe this is one of the parks in Japan where you can feed deer by hand, and she's basically getting mobbed, and it's all haha funny until someone spooks one of them or gets jabbed real hard by one of those antlers or something like that. Okay, so we we have to deal with this as rangers. All right, so bear species and those corvids, those jays and stuff like that, very aggressive about food once they realize it's a thing. So we want to understand the dynamics of bears specifically, since they are such a usual suspect. Do any of you guys and gals, show of hands, have bears in your parks? Okay, so about half, yeah. So pay extra attention here. That is a jar of, I believe that one's honey mustard, but often it's just straight honey because the stereotype is bears love honey. We all read Winnie the Pooh. And then, you know, some people get fingers or hands bitten off. That has happened multiple times. Bears are extremely persistent. They're highly mobile. They can climb trees. They can climb clothing lines. And they will absolutely risk it for the biscuit, even for a little bit of bird seed, because any of this is less work on balance than actually grazing for their food normally. Okay? So even bear lining, you have to do it right so that the bear doesn't acquire this habit. Polar bears are interfacing with humans more and more, and this is part of what happens. So what do you think is going to happen tomorrow night? The bear's coming back. But bears eat a lot more than humans do, and this is expensive. So what happens when the bear comes back for the 10th time and you're out of food? Trick question. You're not out of food. You are the food. Okay, moving on. So the issue here is that not a strict aggression charge, not a true aggression charge, but a bluff charge is enough to scare a lot of hikers or backpackers or people in their backyards, unless you're that guy in Arizona who actually got dragged off by a black bear and killed at the side of the house he was building. The bears learn pretty quick, man, all I gotta do is just like wave a paw or something and people freak out and run the other way, and I'll just loot and plunder like it's my job. Brown bears can rip the roof off of a vehicle like a sardine can lid and get in there after that Yeti cooler. And so they do. Bust out a window, no problem. And this is such a pressing issue, right? It gets in there one time, and it is learned that's enough to get a cooler full of food. That's like days or weeks worth of calorie browsing if it's a full cooler. So that one time is enough. It's like meth, but it's calories. And in places like Yosemite, Yellowstone, if a bear gets into your food at your campsite, because one time is enough for them to come back to that site from up to hundreds of miles away after being driven away, you get fined. So imagine this. Your kid leaves an open candy bar wrapper in your Tahoe, and then you guys go over to the lodge to eat. The bear, while you're there, rips the roof of your Tahoe open eats that chocolate candy bar, slices up everything else looking for any other food-scented stuff, and then you get a $1,000 fine because you fed the bear. Because the bears don't have to believe in your hopes and dreams. They don't have to agree with your motivation. The bottom line is they got food, and they got it from you, so you're responsible for that bear altering its behavior for the rest of its life. Okay? And every once in a while we gotta shoot a bear that has done this. So, bears absolutely do open doors, as in this video. Not really understanding the mechanism, but right, they hook a claw in there and then they lean back a little bit and they're confused, but now they got access to the vehicle. Yeah.
This reminds me of an anecdote from when I was in Yellowstone about the bear-proof containers at campsites. And like, the problem is that there's a large overlap between the smartest bears and the dumbest tourists when they're designing those things. So like, the smartest bears can open stuff that a lot of tourists can't figure out how to open their bear-proof boxes.
Yeah, there's a real vibe or mood when you're driving by on a presence patrol and you see a bear in somebody's vehicle like this, and it's like that moment from Jurassic Park where Muldoon is looking over at the raptor, and then he sees like the other two that have surrounded him, and he didn't realize it, and he's like, clever girl, and then he gets eaten. Yeah, so this is not a food attracted bear, but this can look like it, so I wanted to put this in as a counter example. Man, all these video links are broken, I apologize. Anyway, this is a grizzly bear rub tree next to one of the ranger stations at Denali National Park, so it's me from back in the day. And it's just like a tree that looks like it has a shaggy patch on it, so the bears will rub their backs on trees like that to get some relief from biting insects, and also to mark territory and stuff like that. They can just be itchy. But that's not food attraction. The folks at Denali are very, very circumspect about leaving any food out for bears. It's to the point that bears will migrate through the admin complex at Denali National Park. And this happens like a couple of times a week during peak season. And everybody just goes inside, locks the doors, wait for the bear to roll through, and then everything just resumes. There's no food out for that bear, it's just wandering through. And it's not being aggressive in any way, because an aggressive grizzly bear is an immediate threat to everybody involved. And so they have like a 0% tolerance rate for failure on that with employees or visitors, because everybody's life is on the line. So we know that it can work, it can be done. You just gotta be kind of a hard ass about it, you know? Like, where you don't have any room or margin for these animals picking up an unhealthy or unsafe for us or them habit. That's a thing. Now, for less apparently dangerous species like ground squirrels here at the Grand Canyon, this is one of those places where those squirrels have fleas that carry the black plague or bubonic plague. And it's not, we're not gonna have any black plagues in the modern era because we have antibiotics that work just fine against it. But the issue is it takes a little while for those symptoms to show up. In the same way as, you know, if you travel to Grand Canyon and you fed, so earlier in the video, the lady sitting here had one on her leg and she was feeding it, and I didn't get my camera out in time. So I'm low-key trying to like film them too. Right, that lady right there. You go to the Grand Canyon, you get the black plague, you fly home, and it takes a little while to figure out, because your local doctor, they've never seen black plague before. You've just got swollen lymph nodes, and what is going on? And 2 weeks down the line, you're real sick. And finally, somebody gets the idea to ask, where have you traveled lately? We can't figure this out. Like, this doesn't match, you know, Rocky Mountain spotted fever here in Southern Illinois. What's going on? And you say, oh, I was at the Grand Canyon, and, you know, we were up close and personal with some wildlife. Oh, it might be black plague. Let's get you on some the Grand Canyon has a major problem with this. So a do not feed sign, and this lady is just dying to feed one of those ground squirrels. All right. Oh, this is so exciting. Let me toss something to it. It's quick. You see that? You're feeding it right here. So I'm low-key being a jerk. I'm not egging her on, but I'm not saying no like I should have. Right? And this video started with a big, clear sign designed for international travelers who can't even read English to understand, do not feed wildlife. Right? It's literally right there. It's a big, bright red, and there's another sign, right? So this is an issue. It's hard to get people to understand, hey, you are making a problem for yourself. You're absolutely making a problem for this wildlife. We're going to have to kill this wildlife because of you. That's not a popular message, but we're trying to figure out different ways to say it. All right. So this is a whole group of people. There's another right there. Like, this becomes the point of sitting here. Okay? And taking pictures of it, fine. But this animal's, it's already too late. Right? The whole reason this rock squirrel or ground squirrel is sort of parading back and forth on this is panhandling behavior. Okay? So it just goes on and on and on. Yeah, there's a ton of these. We'll skip through most of them. Okay? This is way too close. And this is 100% food attracted behavior. Okay? So, summer camp, Zapata Falls. We have striped chipmunks doing the same thing. This is a mile up a really steep trail. And striped chipmunks, there's plenty of people walking to Zapata Falls here, so this chipmunk's entire survival strategy is look cute, get food, run away, wait 5 minutes for that group of tourists to file out and for the next group to come in, busy trail, and do it again and get fat, dumb, and happy. Like a striped chipmunk at, I don't know, what is this, like 8,000-9,000 feet elevation should not be fat, dumb, and happy. This is a hard environment. This is subalpine. This is just below the alpine zone, and it's doing just fine because of visitors. Okay, so food attracted armadillo, they're pretty funny. They are at least partially nocturnal. So if you're camping at a place like Cumberland Island National Seashore, you'll be sleeping in your tent and you hear something rustling around on the leaves, and it sounds a lot bigger than it is because armadillo are not exactly known for their agility and ninja-like ability to walk through 2 inches of leaves silently. So you pile out of your tent and they are rooting around your campsite looking for any crumbs and so forth. And they, when you spotlight them with your headlamp or the flash on your camera, they jump straight up and make a little squealing sound and go spread eagle and like land on their backs. It's really funny, but it's not particularly safe. Does anybody know what kinds of horrible infections you can get by touching certain species of armadillo? Leprosy. Like honest to God flesh-eating leprosy. Honest to God, no pun intended. Leprosy like biblical plagues, right? Anyway, nene geese. This is in a wilderness crater at Haleakala National Park at 7,000 feet elevation and extremely controlled access. You have to have a backpacking permit here, and it's pretty difficult to get. And they're just waiting for me to throw them some food, which means that a whole bunch of visitors have had the same bad idea to throw them some food. Same thing with this video here, all right? Muley at Grand Canyon's Bright Angel Campground. Panhandling, coming right up through the campground, through campsites, hoping to get after us. So Bright Angel Campground is, it's down in the canyon, not quite down at the Colorado River. And these are the deer that acquire that gut, that foil wall, the gut obstruction that plugs up their lower sphincter in the stomach, and basically they eat until their stomachs burst and they die of sepsis, or they die of starvation. And it's horrible, it's slow, and it's not pretty. And they're doing this like right at the campground. These are hardcore panhandling deer because it's in the middle of the Grand Canyon. It doesn't have a lot of other options, right? So to the extent that any visitor makes this attractive, then it's going to be a thing. So this is an image of a lighter and a whole bunch of other plastic trash inside a shorebird, right? It's a whole stomach filled with this stuff. One thing after another. So whereas your dog might swallow a sock every once in a while and haha, it's funny, but you got to open up their stomach and pull it out, or hope that they pass it or something. What happens in wildlife where there's no surgeon to do that is this. Okay, so this is a picture of not delicious Polish sausage, it is intestines, as the Aussies would pronounce it, and that is necrosing tissue. It is dead or dying, and this thing is infecting itself from the inside out. So like in the Civil War, when you were shot in the gut, that was considered one of the worst ways to go because you'd be alive for up to a couple of weeks as this set in. Because we didn't have antibiotics then. You could open somebody up for surgery, but we didn't have antibiotics, so the surgery was just as likely to kill them as not. And so you just kind of sew up the outside hole and hope the person fights it off, you know? Typically they didn't. This is a horrible, painful way to die. So, thanks for reading my blog on feeding wildlife. I hope with this 71 example slides, you can see that this is a very, very widespread thing. And if you think about how many of these examples were my own personal experience on summer camp, right, this is super duper widespread. It's all day long at major national parks. So think about your national park. Is it under the pressure of 6, 7, 8 million visitors a year, or 6, 7, 8 million visitors during peak season? Are we going to get stuff like this? Gut obstruction in bears at Great Smokies. Gut obstruction in mule deer, black-tailed deer out west. Contextualize what this could be at your park. All right? Cool. We got to stop there, so let's stop there. And we'll pick it up Wednesday, with the remainder of our wildlife responses to human behaviors.